Hello, my friends. Welcome to me, your host, Christian Watson. So, my friends, Pride Month is coming to an end, but I think the appetites that we have seen unearthed by Pride Month, or rather, unearthed by the urge to partake in Pride Month from corporations to appease and pander their idea of what a gay person is, those urges and appeasements will still continue throughout the year, and you'll see them morph into and shapeshift into many different other forms. But I think Pride Month has perhaps been one of the most egregious examples of those corporate appeasements, of those sort of desire to appease certain social ideas that I have personally seen in my lifetime. I'm sure there have been plenty others. In fact, I know there have been plenty others. But during this entire month, you've had businesses, you've had brands catering to a certain conception of what a gay person is. I can just give you some examples. IKEA, for example, created gay furniture that had rainbow stripes in the furniture. Walt Disney, in the first day of Pride Month, released an entire line of Pride branded toys and shirts and other kind of memorabilia. The Bank of America and Berkshire came out as gay allies to affirm their commitment to Pride Month. Nickelodeon had the Blue's Clues drag queen episode, which was, in my opinion, absolutely terrifying and a representation of everything that kids should not be exposed to. Kids should not be exposed to sex or sexual things or things that has to do with risque things, whether it's heterosexual or homosexual. Pride-themed logos. Many companies turned their logo to a Pride logo permanently. And of course, Kellogg, before Pride Month began, released rainbow-colored cereal. And all of these grand exhibitions of supposed open-mindedness and acceptance were accentuated with tweets and statements that said, "We support Pride. Well, love is love. That is that." These sort of bumper sticker slogans that supposedly encapsulate the desires and existences of gay individuals, the need to validate them. Everything was seen in this month. Now, the problem, my friends, people may say the problem is that they're pandering. They are pandering. Folks may say the problem is that they're not pandering enough. There are actually a lot of gay organizations are angry that corporations are only being prideful of gayness in Western parts of the world and not doing so with their brands in other parts of the world. I am upset, however, because of first principles. I always tell you guys and ask you guys to consider one thing. What lies beneath? What is the fundamental significance of any action that happens? Because principles animate every single action that happens. I don't care what it is. There is some kind of principle behind it. And so to understand the action and actions like it, you must understand first principles. The problem with these pro-LGBTQ advocacies, which are laden with rainbow flags and which come caked in the language, caked in the rhetoric of open-mindedness and tolerance, is that they are deceptive. And this deception is laden with, again, the mythology around the LGBTQ symbols, the mythology of tolerance, the mythology of free love, the mythology. And why are these things mythologies? I'll explain this in a moment. The deception is typically, here's what it actually is. The deception itself, descriptively, is that the desires of gay individuals can be captured by mere symbols. And that gay individuals themselves should have a stake in what these symbols allow to represent. Now, the problem with this deception, other than the fact that it is inherently dishonest, because my interests are not necessarily the interest of an identity that I hold, more on that later, is that symbols represent general ideas. The pride flag represents general ideas. There can be no meaningful interaction with individual appetites and individual attitudes if we stay to a general level. There can be no meaningful. Why not? Because general ideas do not always account for the circumstances, actions, and lives of individuals who may happen to be gay, but who may have other things involved in their lives, involved in their emotions, involved in their beliefs, involved in their value systems that inform their walk in this world, that inform their journey in this world other than their gayness. But the general idea doesn't care about that. The general idea cares about the narrative of gay existence throughout history, and it cares about using that narrative as social and physical monetary currency to rile up the reputation of the company, to lift that up to the stratosphere, and to also fill their pockets. This sort of rejection of bare bones physical reality for the heavens is precisely what we have seen during Pride Month. So let me explain this a little bit more. The idea that the rainbow flag is representative of gay people, and that's the primary idea behind the rainbow flag, it's representative of gay people, is an idea that conflates, again, it conflates a political symbol with the values of people that are supposedly represented by that political symbol without actually considering their values. If I went up to someone who is, let's say that someone is black, let's use a thought experiment to demonstrate the absurdity of the rainbow flag and the absurdity of using the rainbow flag to push any kind of acceptance. If I went up to a black person, and like me, and I said, hey, here's a flag of a black fist, a Nation of Islam flag, and they fight for black empowerment. And this black person themselves is actually a conservative individual who believes Nation of Islam preaches a wrong-headed and vile ideology. Would this make any sense for me to assume, because the person is black, they must endorse the tenets of this flag, or they must be, their approval must be proximal to the tenets of the flag? Absolutely not. Absolutely not, because again, I'm not taking into account the individual desires of that African-American person. There are few general ideas which capture the aims of humanity. There are very, very few. This is one of the reasons why the idea of the common good is so unworkable, because I cannot account for a common good. I cannot account for a pride flag. I cannot account for those things beyond the sort of abstract ideas that they contain. But I can most certainly account for John down the street who has a husband and kids, and his views on certain things like monogamy, his views on politics. I can account for John. So would it not be more epistemically rigorous for me to go talk to John than simply look at these symbols and these flags and assume that by having these symbols and these flags in my branding, in my cereal, that I speak for John? No. John himself is a solitary unit in this thing we call the world, and John is not necessarily connected to the broad tapestry of thought that is behind the pride flag. And so not only is the pride flag conceived as a political symbol of resistance against some legitimate ills that many gay individuals were right to grieve about, the pride flag is also a symbol of militancy. There is this idea in queer theory that gays and queer people constantly face certain kinds of systemic violence, and this violence is motivated by heteronormativity, and this heteronormativity is a threat to the existences of gay individuals. This is why there is such a emphasis on non-monogamy and polyamory and other kinds of untraditional, unfulfilling sexual relationships amongst gay individuals in the Western world, at least, because there is a conquest, a fight against heteronormativity. And so the pride flag is much more than simply a symbol of acceptance, whatever that might mean. And by the way, acceptance is also itself an individual action. It cannot be understood solely through a general idea, because acceptance itself has to be weighed through certain circumstances. You cannot say that the principle of acceptance and tolerance is universally good when there are some things that, from what we can understand from our reason, are not universally good, that we do not accept, and we should not accept morally. And of course, this has nothing to do with being gay, but everything to do with the principled foundation of how these corporations are interacting with pride, or with the idea of being gay. My friends, to profit off of this, the corporation's ability is to profit off of this sort of generalistic macro concept of what it means to be gay, is the symptom of a societal mindset which does not value the individual. Thoreau said in Walden that the word I, you are the smallest unit that is not really considered in the world. And unfortunately, I see representative in the pride flag, representative in this kind of pandering, a lack of a desire to consider the multitudes of gay individuals in the world. There are so many gay individuals in this world who have so many different desires. And if the basic aim of these movements is to make sure that gay folks are not unjustly attacked in their own lives and they can live their own lives out in peace, we don't need a pride flag for that. We already have the natural law for that. We already got America for that. We already have the principles which animate this great republic for that. We already have principles that escape social classification for that. We already have the keys bound up in our hearts and our existence. So why in the world are we allowing ourselves to be reduced to symbols? And why in the world are so many gay advocates out here saying, well, this is good, I'm happy you have a pride flag, but you need to go further? Why in the world? You don't need to go further with a bad idea. The bad idea needs to die in its conception. This idea that a corporation is gay friendly because they put a symbol on their stuff needs to die in its conception. The idea that you can account for me and my desires through a general idea and not through the particularities of my life, that idea needs to die in its conception as well. Reality, my friends, is not a theory. Reality is a matter of observation. And general ideas are a good starting point for observation, but if that's where they end, you're not observing anything, you're sticking within the confines of something that may or may not conform to reality. Reality has to be the king of our perceptions, the king of our epistemic journey in this instance. And these corporations during this entire month have been sticking towards the abstract, not interacting with the individual, not interacting with the physical, and for that reason, they have been living a deception that is deceptive, because the truth of the matter is, that again, you cannot account for me through that flag. You can only account for me as Christian Watson. You can only account for me for my individual life. Well, Christian, what about labels? Labels are good starting points. They are not good concluding points. Have labels all you want. They're good for classification, but don't assume things because of a label. Think on it, guys. I love you guys so much. And if you love me, please support me. Patreon.com/officialcwatson or PayPal, officialcwatson@gmail.com, or locals, christianwatson.locals.com, or you can join my Discord, which is in the link down below. I love you guys so much, and please stay pensive. Bye, guys.